Hey everyone, it is Friday, not Wednesday, and I am doing my Pam Chat because there's just so much to cover. As you can see, I am wearing my University of Virginia t-shirt because I just got back from Charlottesville, Virginia, and I spent a few days with my niece who was getting settled as a freshman at UVA, and I'm so proud of her. And no matter what happened over the last week, she is super excited about being a freshman at UVA. She's moved here from the UK, from London, and she's studied really, really hard to get good grades and to compete, and now she's at a great university. And the UVA is one of the nation's best universities, but it's a public institution. And it's a testament to what can get accomplished when people invest in public education. So even though I am a graduate of Boston College Law School, and of course I live here in Florida, I'm going to be cheering for the UVA Cavaliers next fall, at least unless they're playing one of my schools. But there's so much to cover because this has been yet another one of those whiplash weeks where so much has happened and there's just so much to talk about. But I can't cover everything. I'm going to talk just briefly about what happened today, which was the termination of Mr. Bannon. But I want to talk about something that came up during the Parents and Family Weekend over in Charlottesville that I want to talk about. And then I'm going to talk a little bit sort of more about what's going on, sort of more macroscopically, because you all know that there's a lot going on right now, and I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but I do have a few things I want to add to the conversation. So let's talk about Bannon leaving the White House. I honestly don't know what to make of this because it's so much palace intrigue. I mean, on the one hand, Bannon went out and had one of these explosive interviews with the journalist. He's not a neophyte. He knows that if he goes and talks to a journalist like that, it's going to get printed. And he probably knew that it was going to irritate Donald Trump. There was some White House intrigue about whether Bannon was the leaker or one of the many leakers, whether the president eroded his trust in Bannon, whether the president felt upstaged by Bannon, that Bannon was trying to take all the credit for winning the election and he didn't sufficiently defer to Donald Trump. I don't know. I'm not sure I care. I think at the end of the day, Bannon is the symptom, Trump is the disease. So, do I care if he's in the White House anymore? I don't think he belonged there in the first place, nor do I believe that Sebastian Gorka or Stephen Miller belong there. They are white supremacists, they are Nazis, and they are people who have absolutely no business being in the White House. I mean, they shouldn't be paid by taxpayers. They have no gifts and talents or skills. Gorka pretends to have a PhD, and he doesn't in fact have one. He's not a national security specialist. He's a nothing. He's a nothing but a sycophant to Donald Trump. And, in Trump's universe, that's enough. And so, whatever. I want to see them gone. So, sure. But at the end of the day, that's, a small part of the bigger problem. And I'm going to talk about that bigger problem a little bit later in this Pam Chat. But before I get to that, I want to talk to you about one of the interesting conversations we had in Charlottesville and this room full of international parents. And they were asking, this was a discussion on campus security. It covered things like, frat parties and hazing and drinking, and very specifically it covered guns on campus and campus security. And the provost was telling everybody that UVA is a public university in an open carry state, and that whereas the university can prohibit people from having weapons in their buildings, which they can and do prohibit, and they can prohibit people who are associated with the university from carrying guns on campus, which they do, including students, faculty, staff, admin, and so on. They cannot prevent an ordinary Virginia person or anybody from walking on public land with open carry. And this, as you can imagine, was very disturbing to the parents that were there because they couldn't make heads or tails of it. They couldn't understand why a university couldn't prohibit the carrying of, let's say, semi-automatic weapons and AR-15s on their campus. And the provost just said, look, this is something that's actually controlled by the legislature of Virginia. And if you want to change in those rules, you're going to have to change the legislature of Virginia, which, by the way, I highly encourage to do. But I did come up with a thought that I want to share with you tonight about a potential way of avoiding this particular problem. Because we can agree that everybody has a right to peaceful protest. If you want to speak publicly about what is on your mind, you have an absolute First Amendment right to do that. But speaking is not the same thing as carrying a gun, right? That's a different constitutional right, right? The public speaking right is not the right to speak with a gun in your hand. The gun part is in a second part of this of the Constitution, it's a different part. And so, you know, if you are a peaceful protester, no peaceful protester that wants to have their voice heard should ever feel the need to carry a gun to make their case. Never. Right? I mean, we had 3+ million people march on Washington, and not a single person carried a gun, and not a single person was arrested. So, you know, there's no particular reason why you would need a gun. But there is another part of the Constitution that allows you to have a gun, and the Virginia legislature has allowed people to open carry, which escalates instantly the tension and the risk involved in a situation. And that was what the provost was talking about, that if a person decides to carry a weapon onto the campus of University of Virginia in a public space, they're going to get confronted by campus police immediately. They're going to get reported, and campus police is going to start asking them questions. Now, nothing may come of that, but the campus police feel like they now have to be engaged to ascertain whether this person is a threat, and to ascertain whether this person, you know, whether there is something that's escalating, and to protect that person as well. I mean, if they have a right to have a weapon, maybe somebody takes offense, everything can escalate much more quickly in that circumstance. So the campus police will immediately get involved, which made me think, when you look back at that video of what happened in Charlottesville, you didn't see just campus police involved in securing that site. You saw campus police, Charlottesville police, sheriff's office, state troopers, like all of these people were scrambled to bring the situation in Charlottesville under control. A lot of officers were involved in that, which means that somebody was paying for those officers, right? At first, it was the people of the city of Charlottesville. Obviously, the university police were involved in that, so that's overtime and pay of those police officers, sheriffs, and state troopers. All of them were involved, and all these people had to get paid, and many of them had to get paid overtime. Right? So there was a significant cost that was associated with these people being able to show up with their weapons to speak their minds. And that got me to thinking, why should the people of the city of Charlottesville bear that cost? Right? I mean, these people claim that they had a permit, right? They had to go through a process to get a permit. Well, why shouldn't that process cause them or include them bearing the cost of securing their march? Because their march, by its own nature, is both extremely controversial, and when you invite people to bring weapons, it's incredibly risky. So it was my idea, and I think this is something we should contemplate, that when you go through this process, this permitting process, that the permit issuer, the city, the state, the county, whatever, should be able to force certain groups to post a bond and bear the cost of securing their march. Now, this is not a controversial notion. It's not, because when I did a town hall meeting in Port St. Lucie, I was required to get permission to use the facility, and I was required to buy insurance, liability insurance, for anything that occurred on that premises. So I had to buy a one-day insurance policy. I think that people who do these kinds of marches should have to buy liability insurance. And I also think that that liability insurance cost should be directly commensurate with the risk of damage to persons or property. So if you are like me, a political rally where you're not inviting people to bring weapons and you're not inviting people to be violent, then hey, and you have no track record of people showing up at your events who are either violent or who have weapons, then your one-day insurance plan should be pretty inexpensive. But on the other hand, if you are inviting people to come someplace from all over the world with their guns and their torches, with the idea of inciting people to violence, then you should not only have to post a bond, but you should have to carry very, very expensive liability insurance so that the people who live in that city or who live in that municipality do not bear the cost of your inanity. This is not stopping you from having your freedom of speech. It's not, because you can always make your point without your gun. This is simply saying that if you feel like you must have a gun to make your point, then you bear the cost of that risk. That's a reasonable position to have. And I think we should talk about that. And I also feel like we need to understand what is happening when these men come around with these AR-15s and these semi-automatic weapons locked and loaded. They weren't locked and loaded because it added some heft to what they were saying, right? They were locked and loaded because it intimidated the people in the environment. It intimidated the police and kept police from engaging them as actively as they engage peaceful protesters like the ones in North Dakota, right? And to let the people around them know that the only thing keeping those people from being mowed down was the restraint of the person with that gun. That all of us, our lives are hanging in the balance of the restraint of a Nazi or a Klansman. That's what they wanted us to know, right? And that is what the problem is with this whole Charlottesville thing to begin with. At base, I don't care whether somebody likes me or doesn't like me. I don't really care what they believe about my rights. My problem is that when they get to exercise those beliefs onto my life, that's when we have a problem. And when they carry those guns, what they're telling us is, hey, at some point I may be willing to use this on you. And my problem with what Donald Trump didn't say and didn't do is that it telegraphed to those people that he would let them use those guns on us. That's the tacit language. That's the tacit message. That he agrees with them, that this is their country and not ours. And that should they decide to act in a terroristic way on you, me, your family, the Jews, the immigrants, black folks, brown folks, should they choose to turn those weapons on us, what Donald Trump said is that the government of the United States won't protect you. That's what was telegraphed to me. Now, maybe I'm taking it a step too far. I don't know. I don't think so. Let me know what you think. Because honestly, I don't care what people think about my rights. I care when they trespass upon my rights. That's when I care. I care when they want to take my voting rights. I care when they want to be able to pull me out of my house in the middle of the night and string me up from a tree. I care when they gas and slaughter millions of my neighbors and friends and family. I care when they stop me from getting an education. I care when they want to stop me from being able to drink at a drinking fountain or attend a school. That's when I care. I don't care what they think about it. I care what they do about it. And that's the problem. The president telegraphed to them that he was in agreement with them about what they want to do. That's the problem. Now, to be fair, I have a lot more to say about this. I'm going to say some more stuff about this weekend. But I want to make that clear. And I want you to understand that this particular week is a chapter in a book about this administration. And the story that is unfolding in this administration is that it is not an administration that can govern effectively. Not even at all. It isn't just this week that makes that case. Everything about this administration from its very beginning has been a testament to ineptitude, self-dealing, no respect for rule of law, reactionaryism. The problem with Donald Trump is that he's not able to drive the ship of state. in any kind of effective way. We have seen over this time that he cannot push a legislative agenda. He can't stay on topic. His word is mud because he lies incessantly. Our allies and our friends no longer trust us. He can't be trusted with classified information. We have no idea what motivates him and to whom his loyalties lie. We know that he has ADD. He simply cannot stay on topic. We know that he cannot stay on message. We've learned that he's gutting the administrative entities of our country that keep us functioning as a democracy. He's willing to attack anybody for any reason, private citizens, because he has a very thin skin. We've also learned that he likes to have a White House that is utterly dysfunctional. It's worse than Peyton Place. It's like Survivor White House edition. Who's in and who's out is a constant set of intrigue. In addition to all of that, we have major risks to our country that are percolating right now. The threat from North Korea is real. The threat from what is happening with Russia is real, right? These are real threats to our national security, and we have a president who is so busy defending himself against this particular day's scandal that he can't focus on driving the interests of the United States. He is in constant defense mode, so he can't be offensively focused on getting anything done. There is no infrastructure week. There is no veterans week. There is no plan to move forward, because the only thing he is doing is worrying about his own six all the time. Everything he chooses to do or not do is about how he feels about it and how it affects him. He is a man incapable of putting the needs and interests of the United States first. And so today, or yesterday, I tweeted that we need to be talking about and teaching this man, right? We need to be talking about that. Not that it's going to happen tomorrow. I'm not suggesting that it will, but the conversation needs to get started. And here's the other thing that I need to tell you guys tonight. Do not shut up. Do not back down. And do not think that your voice doesn't make a difference. Because here's the thing. The presidency, the administration, it's all in a balance right now. And everything you do is perhaps just a grain of sand on the right side of that scale. Every tweet, every person, every email, every speech, every protest, every time you support an artist or you support a small business, everything that you do is a grain on the right side of the scale. And the totality of the weight is what is moving the direction that this entire thing is going in. It's the totality of the weight. It is the media. It is the business leaders. It is the defunct councils. It is people pulling away from him. It is the reduction of donations to the GOP. It is the censures from his own party. It is the censures from the Democrats. It is people feeling disquiet about him. All of these things that are isolating him, all of these things are meaningful. They are. Big kinds of changes take big kinds of efforts. And we all are part of that effort. Not because I have a personal beef with this man. I mean, to be fair, I don't like him, but that's not the point. It's about having somebody in the White House who truly can lead and represent the United States. And that we do not have. We are a rudderless ship at this time, with no one at the helm, and it's taken on water. Every day it's taken on water. And what Donald Trump is doing is spending all of his time with a bucket in his hand trying to throw the water out the ship. And while he's trying to do that, he can neither steer the ship nor fix the holes. He can do neither of those things. And that is why we need to be talking about change. And every voice that is added to that chorus makes a louder noise. This country does still belong to you and me. And I don't care about those crazy, wacko Nazis and Klansmen in Charlottesville, Virginia. They will never take this country back from us. They will never regain that space in history where they could just kill off the people they did not like. They're never going to get that back. And the fact that the President of the United States doesn't seem to understand that, as disturbing as it is going to eventually, in time, bring the demise of him and everybody who enables him. Good night.